They can't ask you. Absolutely. Spend a lot. Yeah, I think it was like.
As long as I. That's my first time. So, yeah. I know, the monitor's right there. Okay. We're good? All right. I'd like to call to order the Columbia Beach Town Council work session Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call members, all members are present with the exception of Krista Brown. I don't have any amendments to the agenda. Somebody like to approve the agenda as written? Make a motion. Still moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is the minutes for June 7th on it. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, council member liaison and commission reports. I'll start with Dr. Tulsa.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the week before Mardi Gras and the week before Valentine's Day. I don't ever remember Mardi Gras happening the day before Valentine's Day before. Could put a hamper on your Valentine's Day. But anyway, my liaison report is related to the schools. And I'm hoping Dr. Mitchell will be here. They are working with us on the budget. We have a meeting to go over the budget on Friday with them, but also I wanted to announce that they are participating in the Region 3 meeting in March, and where they'll be showcasing some of our students' work down at the Westmoreland High School. And some of us on town council will be attending that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, there's been a lot of concern over the duck line that's in Maddox Creek, just outside of Monroe Creek. I talked with the officer from the Department of Wildlife, DNR, Department of Wildlife and Natural Resources, and been talking with their attorney. I'm gonna ask our attorney to address it further, but basically what I was told by the officer was that duck line is legally there, it's licensed, it's not in our town waters, it's in the county waters, and that it meets all of their requirements. So if there are complaints, then those complaints should go through the county. To see if there's anything that the county wants to do as far as that duck line. The other issue was there were pictures taken of the hunters on land, and the officer told me that if indeed they are firing from shore, that would fall under the jurisdiction of the police department here in town under our ordinance that for the bird sanctuary and for the discharge of firearms. So I'll just ask Mr. Duggan to please fill in any of those gaps that I missed.
You summarized it very well. The town only has authority within the town limits. There was some discussion as to whether it could have a buffer zone outside the limits to prohibit hunting. The only buffer zone is 150 yards, where duck finds can't be closer than 150 yards to a residence unless the owner residence agrees. So that's the limit I found. I've looked at 40 to 50 town ordinances across the Commonwealth that all are very similar to ours as far as declaring a bird sanctuary. Some only one sentence long. We declare a bird sanctuary within the town limits like that. Ours is a little more involved, but the town does have the right to enforce that with the town. There's a question of the duck line, there are jetties out there, and the information we have so far is that the jetties are treated like docks. They aren't really part of the town limits. So somebody standing on a jetty, it's probably in the county. Dan Armstrong's confirming that, but that's what he's our GIS guy. That's what he was found initially. I think there's also been some confusion about wildlife sanctuaries. There are sanctuaries, there's one in Port Royal and there's one in Warsaw. And these are parts of the community that are set aside and owned by a foundation or maybe the state or the town. But that's different from what we had as a bird sanctuary. So I think there maybe some confusion on terms there too. And as far as future action, that I mean, the person apparently has a right to be there and may have some vested rights in that. I mean, maybe the Department of Wildlife Resources could be persuaded to not have a duct line there, but I sort of wonder about that. It's pretty much automatic renewal, but they will be worth a try. And I have a call into the person Karen talked to. And I agree, this is really a county matter. I mean, they could possibly enforce this with years of legislation. I just wanted to tell you what I found for legal.
Thank you. I think there's been an insinuation in the social media that the town didn't care and didn't want to enforce the bird sanctuary or the discharge of firearms.
Sorry, and that's just not the case. We very much care about our bird sanctuary and our wildlife that is in town, and are investigating this in every way we possibly can, to the point of having our attorney look into it. The other thing that came up with my discussion with this officer was this concept of a no-wake zone that's been discussed over and over throughout the years in Monroe Bay, because of the damage that boat wakes do to the shoreline and the docks. And he said, we did try to pass an ordinance, or we passed an ordinance with the previous administration, but unfortunately they couldn't enforce it because the ordinance was not written in the manner that met their criteria. So that's something else that if council's interested, we can look back into. I think we classified it as a misdemeanor, class 1, and according to DWR, the maximum could be a class 3, class 2, or class 3 misdemeanor for violating that ordinance of the no wake zone. So if that's something that council is interested in doing, then maybe we could have our attorney look into that again. It is an incredible impact on anybody along our shoreline, whether it's a marina or a homeowner, as far as the wakes impacting the docks and the jetty and the shoreline.
And just to follow up on that, we already have an ordinance that we'll be reviewing as we go through these. It's not that right now. And there was questions about where the county town limits are in Monroe Bay. Dan Armstrong, the GIS guy, was able to find a land record which established it right down the road. So we do have control over half of that.
Okay. That's it. All right, thank you, Mr. Allison.
Good evening, everybody. The liaison report will be from finance. Delinquent personal property and real estate tax are due by the end of the month. DMV stops and collection fees will apply on March 1st. Utility cutoffs will begin on February 20th. FY25 budget is being worked. Nonprofits who normally receive funds need to submit their requests and financials to the town manager or finance department by February 16th. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood?
Okay, let's see, so busy week, we're going to be dealing on a holistic wide view on what's is going on the waste treatment plant. That's one of the things that we're going to be setting a meeting on so that everybody can participate. So instead of being redundant, and especially when the information that we're waiting for, a couple of other things that I'd like to share with you. I met with Westmoreland Social Services, and they have agreed to come here to town, and we'll set them up somewhere. It's yet to be determined. We're getting a date together, but they're going to explain to people what benefits are available to them and actually help them fill out the paperwork so that folks who are eligible for assistance will actually see that happen. The other thing is that the cooling period, and that's a specific term, is going to begin in June. People can't apply until the month that the funds are available, but it's a way to help dissipate some of the utility bills for folks who need it. It's not just seniors, it's for people who are below a certain economic line. So that's going to be tremendous help. I'm glad to see that we're working in accordance with our friends at Westmoreland County, and perhaps we can get great things done together. Bay Aging is also discussing coming down and helping, telling people what their services are. And again, helping them with the paperwork there. So, that's encouraging. Also, I just want to give a brief discussion. There is a gentleman, Mr. Bill May, who is attempting to create an organization, the River Autism Community. And what they're hoping to do is create an organization and a way to bundle those talents within the town for jobs locally that these folks will be able to do. I've invited Mr. May to come make public comment for the next meeting and so forth. But again, it's exciting to see that just like everybody else in Colonial Beach, band together and try to find a way to be as inclusive to people as possible, and also find a way to help folks. So I think those are two pieces of the good news, and I'll stop there.
Mr. Williams?
Good evening, everybody. The planning commission liaison, I have the meetings tomorrow at starts at 5:30, so no updates yet, but there will be at the next meeting for whatever they cover tomorrow. And then the housing authority, I'm not sure when their next meeting is. There's been some discussion, I might have mentioned at the last meeting about whether their meetings will be held in public or not. So more to come on that when we get a final ruling on that. Thank you.
Ms. Robertson?
Yes, first I want to thank Michelle for giving me all this. Yep. Sorry, okay. Information, boy, we are a busy town, really. So I'm going to go through what she has given me, an alliance report to the town council. We start with.
Get it closer.
No, but then I can't.
I know, I'm sorry.
You walk with water anyway.
I appreciate it. All right, the first one, CD Artists Guild, second Friday art walks will resume March 8th. The Chamber of Commerce, the 2024 Visitor Guide and Business Directory is well underway, but we still need your membership applications and in bold type events to get completed, to get it completed. We are working with the town and the Marina Ways Committee to help emphasize and the importance of our in-town marinas to our tourists. Restaurant Week was a huge success last year, and we are continuing work on making it even a better success this year. CV Community Foundation monthly meeting on February 15th at 6 o'clock at Rockside Realty. Scheduled speaker is Joni Millard and on the Virginia Osprey Foundation. Next is CV Green Space Community Garden Cleanup scheduled for Saturday, February 10 at 10 a.m. Volunteers should bring gloves and garden tools. Garden work party will be held on the second Saturday every month. Neighbor to Neighbor has expanded into Westmoreland Shores, working with Department of Social Services to help seniors apply for SNAP and other assistance programs. The Angel Tree at Hawthorne Mercantile was successful, and the seniors were very appreciative. St. Mary's Crochet Group donated shawls and blankets. Medical equipment closet has taken off in need of donated rotors and knee scooters.
I think you
And
did.
that's it. Okay, that is my conclusion.
Thank you. Okay, I have been busy and a little bit out of town. Last week I spent 4 days at a FEMA course for building in a coastal environment. And it was a pretty intense course. I did pass it, so that was good, but it was structural, wind, floodwaters, everything terrible that can happen to your community and how to make your community resilient and your building more resilient to these threats and the significance of the threats in our area. And so anyway, I was glad to take that opportunity. I was there with officials from Lancaster, Essex, Newport News, Virginia Beach, all over. So that was a good opportunity. And then Friday, Natasha and I spent the whole day at General Assembly, where we were able to meet with Delegate Ken, and Natasha had met with Senator Stewart the day before, advocating for our legislative agenda, and very particularly for our wastewater treatment plant. I also had the pleasure of running into two of the Department of Wildlife Resource officers, one of which spoke to Karen and Mr. Duggan in Montrose, and then also with the county administrator. And follow up with the Potomac River Fisheries Commission on the call for a meeting with an update to the sewer plant, which we will be addressing in new business tonight to set a special meeting date for that. And following up with DQ on the funding that we received, the legislative funding that we received already, and the next steps in how that process goes. Just because they allocated the funding, there's so many steps to that process and how to actually receive it. I wanted to remind people that on a different note, there are palm tree sponsorships with the Chamber of Commerce, and if you would like to do that, you can go online and find out more information from the Chamber on that. But that is, the campaign is underway right now. I will be hosting a story time. I'll be reading Fox and Socks, the Dr. Seuss book, which if you've never read Fox and Socks, is a tongue twister. It is not an easy book to read. I'll do my best. That is to support the PTSA, the Parent Teacher Student Association for the school. It is at Eugene's on February 12th, 5:30 p.m. when this is scheduled. I did not consider the fact that it's the same date as the Board of Supervisors meeting. So I will be missing the Board of Supervisors meeting to read Fox and Socks to the kids. It is. We'll also be making puppets. And I just wanted to give a heads up, a lookout for thinking about the Menhaden film for the Osprey Festival that is going to be on February 24th at the Episcopal Church. And the next EDC meeting is February 13th, so I do not have a report from that since it hasn't happened this month yet. And that's all I got. Yes.
One quick, just as a quick correction, the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Program, that was a temporary program that was not renewed by Congress. So that's not a benefit that people apply for. I think this is why it's important that we're having our partners with Westmoreland Social Services actually come and give us direction from the source as opposed to trying to do things in a hot basis. We have wonderful groups that are trying to do things, but I just want to make sure that people, because a lot of people depended on it, and it's not something that's available any longer. So I just want to make sure that we're saying that.
Okay, thank you, Rick. All right, next up, our proclamation for Black History Month. Goes without saying that the Black History or Martin Luther King Day that we celebrated just feels like not that long ago, was such a fabulous event. And if you didn't see the write-up in the paper about it, definitely worth a read, and you can view the whole thing on Facebook as well from the First Baptist Church. And now I'll read the proclamation for Black History Month. Whereas Black History Month started as a week that was designated in February in 1926 by historian and scholar Dr. Carter G. Woodson, where his goal was to encourage awareness and understanding of African American experience, along with the contributions of society made by African American. And whereas after decades of the second week in February being celebrated in 1976, President Gerald Ford recognized February as Black History Month, noting it as an opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas the town of Colonial Beach urges our community to thrive in equality and justice that ensures greater opportunity, honors history, and celebrates the contributions of Black Americans from the past and present. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the town council of Colonial Beach, on behalf of the town of Colonial Beach citizens, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 as Black African American History Month. Sign the proclamation and it goes up in town hall. All right, next is an update from downtown Colonial Beach.
Good evening, Mayor. Super, yeah, that's so.
Get close.
Okay. Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for having me this evening. As I mentioned to you in the past, I am the new interim president of downtown Colonial Beach. And given how much the town has supported the organization, I thought it would be useful to give a regular update on the status of the organization. So I thought I'd first give a little bit of a refresher on the organization, who we are, what we do, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to answer these questions about downtown Colonial Beach. What is it? Why is it? Where is it? When? Who? What has DCB done? And what's next? Next slide, please. So what is it? What is downtown Colonial Beach? Can you hear this okay? Okay, doesn't sound like it's working, but anyway, right. So downtown Colonial Beach is an affiliate of the Main Street America, which is a nationwide program which is designed to revitalize local communities across the country. Some number of years ago, the Main Street America was created to try to bring people back from the suburbs back into the cities, and also to rejuvenate small towns like Colonial Beach. So downtown Colonial Beach is sponsored by Virginia Main Street, which is the state affiliate of the national organization, and it is specifically housed in the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. DCB was created in 2016, which was a kind of an outgrowth of the revitalization that happened in the town some number of years ago. Since 2016, DCB has been going through its various stages with the ultimate goal of becoming a full Main Street America member. DCB's current stage of development is called Mobilizing Main Street, which is the stage that immediately precedes becoming a full Main Street member. So why is this important? Why is Main Street important? Why is downtown Colonial Beach important? Why are we doing all of this? And frankly, Main Street program across the country is an organization intended to stimulate preservation-based economic development. And in fact, the tagline for downtown Colonial Beach is preserving the past, charting the future. We really want to make sure that we are preserving the past, but that we are aiming at a revitalized economic town. So Main Street programs are extensions of the associated municipality, and because they are charitable organizations, they can oftentimes act more efficiently than the town municipality can. This is why every Main Street program, or virtually every Main Street program, has as one of its primary benefactors the town itself, because in most situations, or in virtually all situations, the Main Street organization fulfills some of the tasks that the town otherwise would do themselves. So it's important to view Main Street programs like downtown Colonial Beach as an extension of the town's work. And specific benefits to the town include increased property values and tax base, more opportunities for new grants, more tourism, increased number of jobs, a stimulated local economy, better services become available to the town residents, an increased positive awareness of Colonial Beach, and it is a catalyst for public improvements. So downtown Colonial Beach sort of implies a specific part of Colonial Beach, and that is the case. The footprint for downtown Colonial Beach is all of Colonial Avenue, and the rectangle bounded by Colonial on one side, boundary on the other, Washington Avenue, and the beach. But despite the fact that that is our specific footprint, and many of our activities are centered around that area, we do want to work very closely with other businesses throughout town, in particular like the marinas. The marinas bring a lot of people into this town with significant disposable income, and we want to make sure that those boat owners who come to marinas have a way to enjoy the fruits of the rest of the town. So we'd like to make sure that they can get into the businesses in the downtown area. And by doing that, we think that we can also be helping the marinas and what they're trying to accomplish in attracting boat owners to them. Next slide, please. So when is the in question? Because this year is a super important year for downtown Colonial Beach. This is the year that the downtown Colonial Beach needs to accomplish a whole bunch of objectives in order to become a full Main Street program. We have exactly the rest of this year to do that. And so we are in overdrive right now, trying to make sure that we can accomplish all the things that we need to do in order to achieve that status. So DCB is working with the town, our mentors at Virginia Main Street, partner organizations and others to execute our work plan. Who? So DCB, the board of DCB is comprised of 12 residents who have been recruited because of their specific expertise, and as a whole, we have aimed very hard to try to reflect the community that DCB represents. So we have people from various age groups, from various socioeconomic classes, from different sexual orientations. We've tried very hard to, again, reflect the way this town actually looks, because we think that the work of DCB needs to be reflective of the town overall. And DCB now has, thanks to the town, has Kelly Evco as our part-time executive director. This is super important because it's hard to manage this kind of organization just with volunteer board members. So we now have an executive director who will be keeping us on task and making sure that we are able to accomplish all the things that we need to. And I think probably all of you know that the Economic Development Committee has sort of changed its sponsoring organization from the chamber now to downtown Colonial Beach. We think that that's a really good fit for downtown Colonial Beach, and think that the working relationship between DCB and EDC is going to be very productive. And of course, we can't do anything without all of the hundreds of volunteers that we have working on all of the various projects that we have to do and that we will be having to do. So just like every other organization in town, we run on volunteers. So just to give you a snapshot on what DCB has done since it was organized, well, first of all, the very first thing we did, and I was on the board way back then, and then got off the board, now on the board, have been on the board again for the last year or so, but way back when I was on the board, what the organization was really doing was trying to organize itself into a 501c3 status and to accomplish all of the various back of the scene or behind the scene things that need to be done in order for a 501c3 organization to be created. We authored, as chair of the Economic Vitality Committee back in several years ago, we authored an economic development study of Colonial Beach. We partnered with the Chamber and the Planning Commission and created a booklet on how to do business in Colonial Beach. And I think all of you are certainly well aware of the next one. We initiated the designation of a historic district in the downtown area. We incubated the Osprey Festival, which has now sort of spun off and become its own fabulous organization. We have developed streetscape designs to be used to help building owners visualize how their buildings could look. We've created an inventory of buildings throughout the downtown area. We've created townwide beautification efforts in the Mediterranean program, the street banners on Colonial Avenue, and various tree plantings around the town. And most recently, we spent a huge amount of time and energy last year on partnering with the town to implement Sip and Stroll. That's just the beginning. What are we going to do next? We are actively working right now to develop a work plan that is going to make Colonial Beach a better place to live, work, play, and visit. Some of the potential new initiatives, I'm not guaranteeing we're going to do all of these things the first year, but some of the things that we are planning on or talking about is the facade improvement program. Again, as I mentioned a few moments ago, we'd like to make it easier for voters to make it from the marinas to the downtown businesses. Things like water taxis are one of the ideas that's been discussed. Sort of following up on that, we want to encourage entrepreneurs to establish water-oriented activities like boat rentals, sunset cruises, that sort of thing. We want to work with building owners to better utilize the buildings that are not in use and to beautify those that are in use. We want to market the town creatively to new types of visitors. One of the subjects that has come up is the idea of encouraging organizations like trade associations who have board retreats and that sort of thing to come to Colonial Beach to have these kinds of meetings. And of course, in order to accomplish all of that, we need funding mechanisms, and we are developing various types of funding mechanisms to support these initiatives. And the first one coming up this coming Saturday, which many of you will be at, is a Mardi Gras Gala, and it's going to be a wonderful event. We have almost 100 people going, and it's I appreciate all of you who are going to be there. And we also are looking at other innovative activities such as sponsored cartoon maps. I don't know if all of you realize that back in the day there was a cartoon map with businesses advertising on it. I think it's a cool idea, and there are lots of other ideas that we've had as well. And in general, we just want to work with the town and other partner organizations to maximize the potential for success or revitalization of Colonial Beach. And I can answer any questions you might have, but I just also wanted to say that I hope that you're agreeable to letting me make these presentations every quarter or something like that, because the town is, you guys are invested in downtown Colonial Beach, and I want to make sure that you're getting your bang for your buck and that you hear everything that you need to hear about what it is we do.
I'm open to it as long as you stay under 5 minutes.
What's that?
I said, I'm open as long as you stay under 5 minutes.
Did I do it? I don't think I did. Did I?
No, I don't think so. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Questions?
Yeah,
Question? Yeah.
I'll let you go first. You have some.
So, you all did a great job at the Sip and Stroll events last year.
Thank you.
And I understand that you're still going to help coordinate and work with the restaurants,
That's correct.
but that you need ambassadors to be on the street during the Sip and Strolls.
That's correct.
And you've opened that up to other organizations in town.
That's correct.
Do you wanna, my understanding is they are supposed to contact Sally at Parks and Rec to sign up for the Sip and Stroll events. And that they will be on the streets, they can talk about their organizations, they can even collect or find a way to collect donations during those events.
That's absolutely correct. All of that is absolutely on target. Yes, that was one of the things that we struggled with last year, was having enough volunteers to do all the things that we needed to do to support the Sip and Stroll license. And so I think it is something that other organizations should be able to take advantage of, as you say, to promote their own organizations, to promote fundraising activities that they might have themselves. Membership organizations might be interested in promoting membership, that sort of thing. You're absolutely correct.
So, contact Sally Adams
Sally Adams.
if you're interested. I believe there's the Osprey Foundation wants to do the one in April, and that the radio station wants to do the one in June, but others are up for grabs.
That's right. And DCB itself will do that for so Sip and Stroll, as I understand it, if we can pull it off with the town, is we're going to have ones that are associated with all of the artworks, with a couple of exceptions. And then I think 6 more that
Are available.
6 more that DCB itself will organize and will find volunteers for. But there's all of the ones that are coordinated with Citizens Row, which are actually the easiest ones to do because it's an established program that is easy to fit into. But yes, thank you for the thought.
Thank you. You got something? Yes, Mr.
Yeah,
White?
I do have a question. Eric, first of all, thank you for what you're doing for the town. One of the things that concerns me, I think we need to address it because I know you are, but I don't know that we all hear it. When you're inclusive, it does mean everybody, right? And a lot of times we'll hear about how we're starting to whitewash things and make things prettier and so forth and so on. And we forget that there is a support that's required for the businesses that have been here and have been contributing to the town. We have Willie's in town now. We have the food court that we created so that there is a place for everybody to go. And Eric, what I'd like to ask you to do is simply address the incorporation of the businesses that have been here in addition to the new businesses so that we see how we can all mesh together.
Well,
Is that a question?
yeah,
Yeah, how are we going, are we addressing?
are we, yes, for
Yes.
sure, I mean,
Okay.
Got it.
we have spent lots and lots of time going from business to business to business to business, whether they're new businesses or existing businesses, trying to get them to support a lot of the work that DCP has already undertaken or will be undertaking. Certainly as we begin to implement the work plan and we have specific things that we can talk about, for example, a facade improvement grant. If we have that kind of program, we will be going business to business. And again, we are enthusiastic about new businesses, but we are super enthusiastic about existing businesses as well.
Okay, thank you.
And with Citizens Row, we reached out extensively, I'll underscore that word extensively, to existing businesses and to some of the new restaurants who are in town to try to get them to work with us. Not all of them wanted to for whatever reasons, but you know, we did our due diligence to reach out to them aggressively.
Thank you.
Vivian, yes, Ms. Williams?
Yeah, just a question. I was on the Economic Development Committee, so I know a little bit of the background, but the Kelly of Co. being the, I forget what her title is gonna be for downtown Philly.
Executive Director.
Okay, is, so I guess there's a cost share or something, that downtown Philly Beach pays a portion of her salary and then the town pays the rest, is that correct?
Yes, there's a contractual arrangement between the town and downtown Philly Beach. For that, yes, the town is providing more than downtown Philly Beach is, but there is a contractual relationship.
Okay. And I guess this might be for Natasha, what, do you know what the hours, I think she's only part-time now. Is she continuing, I believe she said she's gonna just continue to work for 20 hours or whatever her part-time is.
That's
And-
correct. Kelly is gonna continue to be part-time with the town.
So do you have an idea of how much time she's gonna split between her town initiatives?
So her
and-
part-time hours is not to exceed 20 hours. And then the remainder of the time she spends with DCB.
Okay, so beyond her 20 hours, she will spend with them.
I think there's a lot of.
There's a lot of
that
overlap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
overlap with what the services that Kelly provides with the town as Economic Development Director. And so a lot of what she does for us in conjunction with DCB overlap. So some of those hours would be counted towards her time in DCB, but as far as with the town, she doesn't go over 20 hours.
Okay, thank you.
I'll guarantee that woman works more than 20 hours for this town though.
Yeah, and I'll also just add to that, there is a huge amount of synergy between the work she's doing for the EDC, the DCP, and for the town. I mean, they are dovetailing each other perfectly. I mean, there are some things, it's like a Venn diagram, you know, most of it is overlapping. There's a few things that she'll be doing for DCP that's unrelated to the town, a few things she'll be doing for the town that's unrelated to the other two, but basically it's all one big effort to try to stimulate the economic development of the town.
I just had a couple of things. One is that I wanted to make sure that you all, and I think I brought this up at the EDC meeting, but that Blake McDonald from Department of Historic Resources will be back. I believe at the next meeting, Heather, yes, to give us an update on the expansion and potential of additional historic designations. And that is something that benefits existing landowners, existing businesses too. If you're in one of these buildings, then you can qualify for these tax credits and these designations. So he'll be back in February. Also, when I was at the FEMA course in Kilmarnock, I met with the town manager of Kilmarnock who implemented their own facade program. And so I have some resources from her. So I want to just I'll pass those forward to you guys. You can look through it. She was extremely pleasant and she'd be happy for a phone call if you want to know what not to do. She had some lessons learned in her experience too.
That's would be really helpful.
And she was also happy to either host DCB, a visit to Kilmarnock. If you haven't been, it's a good opportunity to see it. Northern Neck locality that I think exemplifies some of the Main Street principles. And then I wanted to let you know, or just make an announcement that there is a course to get a captain's license available in Newburgh, Maryland in March. It's 3 weekends long, but you can get what's called a 6-pack where you can take out 6 people for profit if you are become a captain, a boat captain for our boats. So for spurring this idea of water dependent and economic development, one of the things that we lack here is people with captain's licenses. And if we had more people that got their captain's license, then we would have more opportunity available to start some of these small businesses. So I encourage anybody, if you like boating and you think you might want to get paid to boat, to please take the captain's license course. It's in Newburgh, Maryland. It's right across the river. It's not very far from here. And it's in March. And then you'll see some announcements on Facebook about kickstarting the next round of veterans banners on the boardwalk, which is kind of related to a lot of what I think DCB does, even though it's run under the Historical Society. Just because of preserving our history and charting our future kind of concepts. And I just want to say thank you too. I'm very, very excited for DCB this year.
I'm super excited. It's going to be a great year for the organization, a great year for the town, and I really look forward to being part of it and helping it move into its next stage of being a full Main Street program.
Yeah, if anybody remembers Linda Chiarello sitting through every single council meeting advocating for this organization to get off the ground many years ago now. But I still remember it vividly, and it's come through many cycles, but it's finally, I feel like, getting to fruition.
And I'm sure all of you remember Joyce Reinberg and all of her hard work that she put into it. She's going to be recognized being a gala on Saturday.
Very deserving, wonderful. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moonshot. Are you ready?
Sure thing, yes, ma'am.
Do you remember we met over at the plant?
Yes. Yes, excuse me.
Glad to see you back in Virginia Beach again.
Yes, I've had a lovely visit, lovely time here.
Oh, good.
I appreciate the hospitality of the folks over at the Public Works Building. My name is Shannon Gordy, for those. And I'm wearing my Moonshot garb, and I think it's really fitting that we wear the logo by our hearts, because Moonshot Missions is truly an act of love and passion to take the work that we've done in the past and our experiences and use that experience to work with towns like yours to help you as a peer advisor come up with the next steps on how to advance your systems. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here, for the privilege of working with you on this. I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues virtually, One of them, Nathan Cody, you'll be hearing from later, and he'll introduce himself a little bit. We're also joined with our managing director, Andy Kester, who, by the way, is just a phone call and a couple hour drive away from him. So here we go. Hey guys. Nathan's got a beard and Andy's a clean cut one, so it's a good team we have here. Personally, my background is I'm a civil and environmental engineer by training. I worked for 10 years at a mid-sized consulting engineering firm in central Pennsylvania. I worked directly with many communities just like yours. I didn't deal with the big folks. That was somebody else's job. I got to work one-on-one with communities just like yours on drinking water and wastewater distribution, collection, treatment. My first baby before my physical daughter was born was a membrane filtration plant that I worked from the very beginning with the regulators that said you have to filter your water that you're pulling out of the ground, all the way through to getting that up and running. And I am so very proud to say that the operator who worked there never drank the water from the treatment plant, but he did after the filtration system was put in. So that's what a little point of pride. And I think a lot of the folks who work at the Public Works Department can understand that. So the next 10 years I spent at what was then called the Harrisburg Authority. And if you want some good reading on how to not run a municipal authority, research them. The city was using a lot of the money there to do such things as buy artifacts for the Wild West Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Apparently the Susquehanna River was the boundary to the west. Regardless, worked there, we worked through a receivership. The city almost went bankrupt, the county almost went bankrupt to pay for the debt associated with that system. We took it over as a true operating authority, and I mention that because that gave me an experience to see not only the engineering side of things, but the financial and the managerial sides of what it takes to operate a drinking water and wastewater system. It's that type of experience that I have, that my colleagues have, that we bring to you today. So with that, I want to go through our agenda here. I want to introduce you all to why we're here, the system that we're operating under. Want to talk about the work plan for technical assistance. And we're working here on the wastewater system only, just for reference. We're then going to go through some of our initial observations, and then next steps, and then we'll have a conversation after that. Next slide, please. So the way we got connected with you is through our work with what's called the Region 3 Water Technical Assistance Program. The bipartisan infrastructure legislation put billions of dollars out for infrastructure funding through the state revolving loan programs. They were concerned that a lot of small municipalities have not accessed those funds before. They wanted to get more disadvantaged and underserved populations to make those applications. So they put funding out there for organizations like ours to help communities get to that place. And that can be anywhere from us helping with one specific issue to something like we're doing here, which is a full, what we call our 360 TMF evaluation that I'll talk about a little bit more. We are a subcontractor in this case to the University of Maryland, their EFC. We have partners there, the Water Center at the University of Pennsylvania, SERCAP, RCAP, you may have heard of them. West Virginia Community Action Partnership, not working here in Virginia, but there are partners in West Virginia. The School of Health at the University of Maryland, and Quantified Ventures, who are a financial advisory firm specifically targeted towards state revolving loan funds. Like we are former utility operators, advisors, and managers. They are often former state revolving loan program officers. Next slide, please. So I'd like to turn it over to Nathan now to talk about the moonshot, our mission, vision, and our method. Take it away, Nate.
Hi, folks. Such a pleasure to be with you. It is our honor to walk with you in this. And so it does my heart good to hear about all the good work that you're doing in your town. We've served in roles like this before, so what I heard tonight was a lot of passion about the community, and does my heart well. So I'll at least start off like, what is a moonshot? A moonshot is a challenge. Nationwide, there are utilities struggling with infrastructure, with climate change, with staffing. There's challenges everywhere. And much like our space program, it takes a little bit of ingenuity, creativity, and a will to turn these into success stories. So that's what we get to do. What we love about our job is we get to lock arms with people like you and kind of storm up that hill and those challenges that you have in front of you. So that's what a moonshot is. Who is Moonshot? We are a bunch of people that lead with our heart and use the skills that we have, that we've gained over our careers, to help people that need it the most. That is a privilege for us. It's a privilege for us to walk with folks. I tell people we have nothing to sell because we're working under grants and programs, and what we have to sell is our care. I was out there in December, fell in love with your little community. I heard talk tonight about you're looking for boat captains. I think you're hook, lining, and sinkering me to your community. So I appreciate that bit of work there. But again, what we like to do is work with people and help them in any way, shape, and form. You're getting a deep bench of people. I like to call us the Avengers of the utility business. You've got people that have served in various roles across the United States of America, have proven their success by the projects and processes that they have put in place. And we are here because we care, really are. So part of that is what we come out and we like to see what's working, what's not working, and kind of use our experience and advice to kind of put to work some quick win solutions and then some long-term solutions to help you out. So that's a little bit about us. Do I go into my details now or wait?
Let's go to the next slide and talk about our method.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, so you'll see us, we were out here, as Nathan mentioned, in December, did a walkthrough of the treatment plant and the collection system. He's gonna walk through what his observations were there, and that's probably gonna be the bulk of the presentation. I'll talk a little bit about some of our initial thoughts on management and financial pieces we have. So you'll see we have we call the moonshot method. We intake the system, so that's we gather as much information as we can just using the internet. And also this is from requests that come in from a community to the EFC and then gets passed along to us. We then enter into our assessment phase, and that's where we take a look at as much information as we can gather, and we use our collective knowledge to come up with some ideas on where you are, and then talk to you about where you want to go and how to get there. That's the menu and map phase. The menu is a whole bunch of alternatives. We say these are all the projects that we could work on. We want to work together with you to prioritize those. And then we map that out. The ones that you decide are the most important to you, the highest priority. We'll work together and establish here are the steps we need to take to get through there. Here's who's going to be responsible for what, whether it be the town, whether you continue to work with Moonshot, we might refer you to Quantified Ventures or somebody else, and we'll help you walk through that. The launch phase, maybe just you, may include us. It all depends on our work together, and we'll work through this. So next slide, please. The work that we're going to do here is what we call our full service. And like I said, we sometimes do targeted projects like creating an RFP to go out for an engineering contract for a specific project. What we signed on to back in October was to review the INI infiltration and inflow report and provide some feedback on the scope. We did that back in January. I know that you all are still reviewing that scope, but had some suggestions for opening up the technologies that would be allowable here, because there's a whole lot of new technology. And when you use specific terms in a bidding document, you don't want to limit yourself to that. So that was, I think, the biggest suggestion that we had. We are going to work through a rate assessment. This is not the same as what you had Raftellus do. We take a much more broad look and take a look and see, are your rates sufficient, or would you maybe want to have some enhancements to those? We promised to do that in March. You're getting a special sneak peek that wasn't planned for, so kudos to you all. So then we will have our 360 TMF assessment completed in April. And then phase 2 is that work plan, that launch phase. And we will have a work plan hopefully June so that we can work through that. Next slide, please. This is the information, and there is a bit of a not an error per se, but it could be clarified, where it says that the treatment facility is 15 years old. That's referring to the upgraded treatment plant. So there was a plant upgrade 15 years ago. Next slide, please. So the 360 TMF assessment, T for technical and managerial, F for financial. This is to get a full picture of how you all are working together, how it's working, how maybe there are challenges, and then we can talk through how to make you all a well-oiled machine. Next slide, please. And this is where I turn it over to Nathan and get comfy in my seat, because he's got some stuff to show you. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for being patient, folks. I didn't tell you in the beginning, I'm coming to you live from semi-sunny Phoenix, Arizona. So don't be too upset with me that I got some decent weather here. So I want to at least first compliment the staff. Being a utility person and a people person in a technical field, you accomplish this work through people. So I appreciate the folks that we have met in this process that care a great deal about doing a good job. So I at least wanted to put that out there. You have a staff, I don't know how to say it other than they're resilient, but there's also some challenges with the facility and the system that you have. That's just being honest. To no fault of anyone other than this is what happens with aging infrastructure. I will say you are not alone. There's lots of communities, I would say, in Virginia that have some of the same struggles, and then we pull out to the tri-state. So what you're dealing with is not unique, but don't use that as an excuse not to take action, because that's sometimes the easy part to do. Well, everybody's dealing with it, but you're also faced with the regulators expecting a little more. So I at least wanted to start off with that. The collection system, it is showing its age, given the location, a coastal community. I'll at least say for the most part, anything that is, well, it depends on construction. Anything 30 years or older in your community has reached its useful life. And by that, I mean, it's been used to its fullest extent and has pumped a lot of water over the years. You know that some of these lift stations that you have out there have been updated, which is good. We saw some of that progress out there, which is great. I think you need to take that same approach and continue to rebuild them. I'll at least say my favorite pump station was the one down by the beach. At least nice view down there, and really nice job on that upgrade that you folks did there. Part of that is with any wastewater system, especially in a coastal area, we're going to speak about inflow and infiltration. This is stormwater getting into the system that we don't want in the system because it's robbing capacity. So this is what causes overflows. This is where the sewage goes places we don't want it to. Or if we're successful at getting it at the treatment plant, we inundate the treatment plant beyond its design capacities, which causes overflows and other challenges. and really reduces the treatment capacity of the facility. So I say, as you continue to look into the future, as you grow, which you will, a lot of communities continue to grow, your bang for the dollar is to repair the collection system to leave you some wiggle room for some good, healthy growth. One of the things that we saw out there with our tour, we call it FOG. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you will. Fats, oils, and grease. It is a problem out there in the stations that we observed because it causes blockages. It causes blockages in your gravity systems, and then it becomes a maintenance issue within the pump stations. It's hard enough to pull a lift station pump when the toilet too often gets used as a trash can. Things get flushed down that shouldn't be, but then you add the grease on top of it and it makes an already tricky operation even more difficult. So from that standpoint, to eliminate service delivery issues, like again, big window, let's find ways to reduce the inflow and infiltration. And let's look at some regulations as it relates to making sure that people are properly using the system as it relates to those FOG compounds, because again, it's a challenge for any wastewater treatment process. So that's a little bit on the collection system. I'm going to go into the wastewater plant. I've got 4 bullet points that I'm going to hit now, and I'm going to go over some of these and just remind you again. My recommendations are clean. We got to figure out what works and why some components aren't online. Where do we need to do some replacement? And then put in some process control. And by that, I'll show you some pictures here in a minute as it relates to cleaning. At least I'm working off of 2 different things. We'll slide forward in a minute, but you have some vegetation and growth in your treatment tanks that is robbing capacity for your facility to fully treat the organic loadings as designed. You also more than likely have years and years of what we're going to call grit deposits in your treatment tanks because you have such high amount of inflow and infiltration coming in. What that also means is you get organics into your plant that you don't want, rocks and debris that are robbing tank capacity. And so we've got visuals of this. Part of this, it robs capacity. Also say that it makes operations a pain in the tail when you get into these high flow situations. One of the things that we heard from the staff is with the vegetation and growth, it plugs up other processes. So while they're inundated with all this extra flow, all this extra rainwater that they're trying to process, then they're trying to unplug processes that are affected by this growth. And so I say that too, like the cleaning idea is going through, and there's processes at the plant, whether at the influent pumps or the influent headworks. You know, when we were there, the screen was offline, the grit system is offline. So part of us coming in and doing analysis, even though I was only there for a day, like, why is this off? What needs to be fixed? And I'm the type that if you have it in your process and the EPA approved this to be a part of your treatment train, what do we need to do to get that back online? And that's where I go back to what is working, what's not working, and what needs to be replaced. You know, you have some immediate replacements as it relates to pumps and motors, and we've documented some of that in the report, and your staff knows about it too. Those are the heartbeat. So I'll say your treatment facilities, water and wastewater for any community is the heartbeat of your community, right? There's lots of beautiful work that you folks are doing there. What we want to do is help you ensure this investment and help be the best stewards possible so your community can continue to grow and develop and rely on this infrastructure for many, many years to come. I'll say too, what's interesting at this facility, a lot of corrosion. Corrosion can be the enemy of any treatment facility, whether it's wastewater or water. Anytime you have biological activity and chemicals, you're going to have some corrosion. But I made note that it was kind of interesting, some of your structures, how they're open air to the environment, showing heavy corrosion, whether support structures, just iron support throughout the facility. And part of that I'll say is like, even some of the piping and valve work, there's some attention there that needs to be brought up, at least from a long standpoint, needs to be recoded to protect the integrity of the pipe work. Same thing with like walkways and steel structures and supports throughout the facility. One of the big things that I'll add on, there's quite a bit of, for the size of the facility, there are some complexities related to how it was designed. What I'm going to speak of, it relates to process control, what we call it in the business of creating a process and method to where you run the facility does not run you type of thing. Through comparison of data analysis on treatment levels throughout the process and what chemicals are being used, which ones should be used. Maybe we're overfeeding, underfeeding. There's a lot of work that needs to go into that to kind of design a standard on how you're going to run the plant day in and day out. That's where I talk about a robust process control program to kind of build that. It doesn't matter what shift, what operator. We like to, at least in the utility business, we want to make it simple enough and conveyed in a way that there's that it's documented on how to run this facility, that I know you folks on council might not want to, but if something would come up, we want to have this in a way that you could show up and run that facility in a pinch if there's, a major emergency, right? So that's always the goal. Like we've got this in a spot to where everything's been identified that needs to be as it relates to ensuring success on the treatment process. That's where I put on the bottom bullet point there, SOPs and operational guidance. You're going to get the effort that you put into that is similar to like cleaning and some of those things. You're going to get that back fourfold, because what's going to happen is you've got people invested in the process. Okay, how does it work? Now we're going to learn together. Now we're going to document this together. And a lot of times these SOPs can be living, breathing documents because they're going to change. And by that, we may find another unknown becomes a known, or maybe you're aggressive with collection system improvements. And when it rains, you don't have the high flow that you did before. So there's some adjustments that come out of that. And part of that, your facility is on the list as it relates to the regulators. They know the challenges that you have there. Don't let that scare you, but I put at the end of that bullet point, AAR, after action review. Let's show the regulators that that there's some gaps, there's some areas we need to work on, but how do we shore this up? And part of that, again, is kind of diving in what works, what doesn't work, and what's been a challenge. Again, you've got plenty to work with. There's tons of potential there at that facility to really get this thing humming like a top, and I don't see any reason why we can't. It's just some effort needs to go into it to make this a success. So I don't know that I can switch the slides from here, but could we go to a couple of pictures? Just thank you, whoever did that. Thank you so much. So on the left, you see what I'm trying to show you there is, I think that was one of your most recent lift stations that were updated. Everything in that looks solid and good. But look down at the bottom, it almost looks like dog food. That's what the grease ends up looking like. And so what happens with grease, if not properly taken care of in the system, and even at the treatment plant, it causes more challenges at the facility. Too much grease will create some bugs, some microbiology in the treatment process you don't want. So part of it is, let's get it out of there. Let's treat this right. And there's processes, and sometimes, I'll at least say it, sometimes restaurants, even if they have typical grease traps, that's usually enough to prevent this. And by that, sometimes they've got to get a hauler out there and kind of clean the grease traps. Maybe slide over to the next picture a little bit, whoever's at Mission Control. Thank you so much. I wanted to show a picture of this. This is what a lift station that's getting towards the end of its useful age, at least as it relates to the concrete coating. You can kind of see the aggregate, and in some parts, rebar kind of showing through. Now, I'm just sharing this as an example. It doesn't mean that this has to be completely removed. This is one where you maybe go in and it's going to take like some bypass pumping so the sewage goes where we want it. You can get by with really cleaning this, getting it down to that I guess the best concrete that's in there. And then there's coating options with this. Same thing with manholes. There are epoxy and cementitious options to ensure the life of these units for the next 50 years. That's what it needs. It needs a little bit of attention from that standpoint to kind of reinvest in that. Because again, part of this is making sure the investment is protected for the next generation type of thing. With your kindness, can we go to the next slide? I should have a couple pictures. Thank you. This is an example of the vegetation that's in the treatment process. The one on the left, that is what we'll call the bioreactor, the biological activity process or activated sludge process. You shouldn't have floating debris or vegetation up on there because some of the processes leaving that tank is conveyed by pipe that can be plugged up with that material when you go into high flow. And again, just makes a bigger issue. The tank to the right, or the picture to the right, is an upstream process at the wastewater treatment plant. This tank is important as it relates to high flow for your facility because that's one of your wide points. That's one of your buffers in the process. And you can see from the actual written report that we sent on to you guys, there's a lot of vegetation in there. And again, I'll say part of the reason that it's in that situation, there's no easy solution to it. You know, it's not as simple as putting a ladder in and having people haul 5-gallon buckets worth at a time over. I mean, it could be done if you have a small army. With the height of these tanks, it's going to require either it's going to require some equipment with some reach. Now, I don't know if maybe this occurs because of the coastal area. Like I was born and raised and spent 42 years, the first 42 years of my life in Ohio. And, you know, reminds me a little bit of cattails, where they'll grow anywhere where there's water. So I don't know if it's ended up there in just years and years, this is what you end up with. But I wanted you to see that because, again, this is stealing from the heartbeat of your facility there. It's robbing capacity. And I'll also say it needs to be cleaned out, but then we also need to plan over the next 5 years to make sure that we do some little acute, maybe smaller cleanings to make sure you don't get to this point again. I'll say this, you take care of this. This is a step in the right direction that any regulator is going to look at. You know, this is not what I would call a presentable tank. And so if they're already worried about compliance issues, this will give them all the information that they may need as it relates to process. Next, please. And so I just wanted to show this because as I was going through my files, writing the report, you know, it's just funny where you get certain pictures and you're like, you know, I didn't catch that when I was out there before, but I got a picture. We're next to one of your tanks, and then that the picture on the left, that white building is where your belt filter press is, and to the left of that is where your influence structure is going to be. At better resolution, or if you guys can see it a little closer, there's interesting buildup and corrosion on the outside of that building. And that's what caught my eye after the fact, like, what is going on there? So is it a scenario where it was poor coatings to begin with, or is there something going on that's coming to your facility that is more aggressive in nature than I've seen in some facilities, which I will mark that some of your pump stations that send the sewage to your facility, long detention times, which also mean it's becoming septic. And then in septic conditions, hydrogen sulfide, a gas, can be quite deadly, but it also is very corrosive. So I wonder if we're seeing some of that right there. And I just want to bring it to your attention. And if you slide to the right again too, I was looking at one of the repairs that your operators did for an airline. You'll see the pipe there. And I just wanted to get a picture of that. And then in that moment, what you're seeing is corrosion to steel structures, support structures, and on top of that is your belt filter press. I would probably guess that that machine's at least 2,000 pounds, you know, and it's distributed properly, but I want you to at least be aware that's the type of corrosion that becomes a bigger issue. And you can see it out in the facility too, where walkways and handrails and things like that are showing that corrosion happening, which again, your facility's not too terribly old, but it is interesting to see it to this degree. So I at least wanted to let you know that these are some of the things that caught my eye. And I can't remember, do I have any more pictures after this one? Yeah, these are just examples of corrosion to some of the pipe work, and at some point, again, whether it's water infrastructure or wastewater infrastructure, the reason we want good coatings is to make sure that the integrity of that metal and pipeline is ensured for years to come. And I'm just using that, like the picture on the left, you can see the corrosion on both sides of the support beams that relate to the catwalk structures among these tanks. Is it bad enough to where I didn't feel comfortable walking on it? No, but it's something that you have to account for. I think in the next 5 years is plant-wide corrosion and reapplication of coatings to ensure some of that integrity of the facility out there. I think that's my last picture, maybe. Yes. So again, what I'll say, at least in closing on that, take heart. You're not alone. There are challenges. Yes. Again, a lot of facilities have challenges like this. What you get from us is some people that can encourage. We are not beholden to one process. We are not beholden to one piece of equipment. We are allowed to look outside of the box, and what we can offer to you folks, at least as it relates to long-term repairs, we can be your sounding board. We can help you find some options as it relates to reinvestment in the collection system in the facility, and kind of nudge you along that way and get that free advice. Because while we do have engineers on staff, we are not engineering projects. So what we can do is like identify, hey, what are the clusters, and then get those project ready depending upon what kind of engineering you have to do. With the state of Virginia, it's my understanding that there are options that studies like we have done is enough to get you into the grant pipeline, but it also requires further engineering. So anyhow, so take heart. Part of this too, with some cleaning and some process control, I really think you can get this plant whipped back into shape fairly quick, at least from that standpoint of knowing what we're working with and how to make it a success. And then there are some things beyond this quick win solution. So at least with that, I'll stop. I humbly thank you for the opportunity to at least share this with you. And if there's any comments or anything that I could do, I will defer to the MC Shannon to tell me what I should do next. There she is. Hi.
Hi. Thank you, Nathan. A lot of this obviously didn't happen overnight. Didn't happen in the last couple of years. It's been an ongoing issue and a challenge that is now to the point where I encourage you to really stop and think about this. It gets to this point from maybe having understaffing, not having enough people out there, not having, hate to say this, but pride in the facility. I think this is an opportunity for you to really take into consideration the fantastic work that the folks are doing out there right now. The fact that they are understaffed. They've had 2 vacancies since last July. Even with that, if they were fully staffed with those 2, they're probably still understaffed based on utility kind of rules of thumb. And you see it at the treatment plant from those pictures, because they just simply don't have enough time to go do the cleaning and the painting of the steel structures that would be necessary to prevent all this. So you see, you know the information at the top of this slide, you know how you got here. But we put it up there because we provide this internally as well. We use some of these slides to have discussions amongst more than just the three of us. As I mentioned, we haven't done the analysis yet. I know that I believe the staff is doing that on what they feel adequate staffing is, but we're gonna take a look at it too and just either confirm or maybe we can arm wrestle over who's right if we have a challenge there. I've got my thumb, working out pretty good, so we'll get there. Some facts, some of the challenges that the existing staff are handling is that they are being asked to do more. And that's because of moving to a 24-hour-a-day shift as opposed to 16 hours. 16 hours is what's required in your permit. Because of the age of the plant, because you want to prevent any additional spills, any problems, it really is important to have 24-hour staffing. So I commend you all for moving to that. You never know what's going to happen at 12:01 a.m. and to have somebody on staff there is really going to prevent a lot of challenges moving forward. But keep in mind, these are the same people that are already understaffed. You've seen some additional expenses related to bringing in some contractors. That was used to supplement the staff during a time when the SCADA system that you all have recently upgraded. The SCADA system is what allows automation to a lot of the processes. It's so you don't have to physically go and adjust this knob and crank that handle. It brings it all into a central system, the human machine interface and programmable logic controllers and all these acronyms, PLCs and SCADA and all this, but that had to go down, which means that you had to operate the treatment plant manually. That was done using some contract operators. And by the way, you were able to snag one of those contractors to come in and work on your night shift, so that's good news. Understaffing, as I mentioned, the understaffing, just the state of the plant, the safety concerns that are out there. I think you have a challenge with staff morale that you should really think hard about. They are the number one point to being able to operate this facility and provide the service, prevent overflows, prevent the damages that can come from that. In particular, with the tourism that you want to get here, you don't want a failing wastewater treatment plant that impacts your ability there. So keep in mind, it's all about people. And good people are hard to find nowadays that have the licenses, the skills, and the wherewithal to work in these situations. So thank your operator tomorrow when, thank them every day for what they do, because you all can flush your toilets and not have to worry about this, right? You just turn the water on and it's there and it's clean and it's great. You flush the toilet and it goes away and you don't have to think about it. It's great. I'd like to say that we environmental engineers did a great job. Y'all don't have to think about it. We do. But we owe them a debt of gratitude, and it's time to renew a lot of the investments that were made in the past. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now after I give this plug for the fats, oil, and greases. This is a challenge in the system, as you saw. It's my understanding there is not an ordinance in place that would restrict that would require those grease interceptors and tanks and require them to be pumped out. That's something that you could consider that could alleviate a lot of the problems happening at the pumping stations and in the plant associated with that fat, oil, and grease. Okay, now off my soapbox. On to just the facts, man. There is no asset management plan. An asset management plan takes a look at all of your assets. Your piping is one of the things. So how old is the pipe? What material is it made from? How long is that material supposed to last? What do you know about the condition of it? And you put that into a system so that you can analyze what's the criticality of this system. If this pipe might be on the edge of failure, but it only serves 2 homes. This pipe may be less less likely to fail, but if it does fail, it's gonna impact the entire downtown area. So you differentiate all the different assets in that criticality factor to come up with an asset management strategy. When do you look to replace these? When do you look to inspect them and then put them on a capital program? So you're not going out and saying, okay, we're gonna spend $1 gazillion and we're gonna, which of course nobody has the budget to do, and replace everything. You can do it in a systematic manner over time that will prevent the big catastrophes. I like to say big catastrophes and give you this example. When I was at the city of Harrisburg working there, it was the state capitol. And there was tourist buses coming because the Pennsylvania Capitol is one of the most beautiful capitals in the country. So said Teddy Roosevelt when he visited back in 19 or whatever. But we had a tourist bus with some Asian tourists. They were driving up this beautiful lined street with trees and flowers, Susquehanna River in the background, Capitol Dome right in front of them. And guess what? Sewer line collapsed right under them. Bus angled into said manhole, not manhole, I'm sorry, into the sinkhole because of the collapsed piping system. This pipe stayed back to the Civil War, so it's gonna fail at some point, but until recently, that city didn't have the asset management program. They weren't doing preventive maintenance. We worked with them, I worked with them, they now have asset management system, they're not in taking care of all the pipes all at once. It's this systematic approach. That's something that that your community could use as well. There was the I&I evaluation that was completed that's helping to put some of those priorities in front of you. That had the budgetary cost estimate. I know you all were working on that. Capital improvement planning. This is the big ticket items, your renewal and replacement. This would be items like the pumps at the treatment plant that I know you're getting replaced. It's a whole host of improvements. What we like to see is a capital improvement plan that takes into consideration that asset management strategy. How are you gonna pay for all these projects? Are you gonna pay them with pay-go capital, which means you're gonna pay it from the rates you would bring in? Are you gonna finance it? What are the financing terms? Which one makes more sense? And then you develop this strategy that's over time. It says we're gonna do this project here, here, here. You can plan ahead for grant applications, for loan applications, or for rate increases if you need to. There was a 2023 capital improvement plan that you all have seen. You're likely very familiar with it. It included about $11 million in collection system projects and about $1 million for those pumps, which I understand they're starting to trickle in. Yes, so good job on that. Thank you right through that. The Public Works Director has developed a list of needed repairs and upgrades that are above and beyond that 2023 report, exceeding about $6 million. So you'll need to think about how are we all gonna fund this? How are we gonna work together, come up with a financing strategy for that? And we're not here to replace your financial advisors. Davenport, they know your system, they know your accounting, they know what to do. It's a matter of us helping them to see the bigger picture of what's going on to help them inform their advice to you. Also, we will look at the rates, but we're not going to do as much of an analysis as Raquelis has done for you and what they can do for you in looking at your rate structures, how any increases you can work to mitigate the impacts to certain classes of customers. While looking at that, I know they had a presentation to you back in 2022. I thought their report was very well written. Some of the things I noticed in there that I would want to model to take a look at is that was based on assuming 100% grants for all of the capital projects. When we do these types of programs, we would only include 100% grant if we know it's happening in the next year or two. We might be optimistic and put maybe a 50-25% likelihood as time goes out. So we want to keep that in mind as you're looking at any studies that talk about rates needed or revenues needed. Is that what are the assumptions going into that? Are you financing through a bond that has more fees and higher interest rates? Or are you financing through something like the state revolving loan program that has longer terms, less upfront costs and lower interest rates? Those are all things that would get captured into a capital improvement plan or rate study. Next slide, please. Those are our initial findings. Here are some benchmarks that we put together with respect to kind of industry norms. And what we found when we took the information, your budgets and financial statements, and looked at it together. So over the last 12 years, average rates annual rate increases have been on average about 4.1% per year across the United States. You all have had no rate increase.
That's not true.
That's not true.
2011, I believe, was the last time the rates were increased.
No, like 2018.
Okay,
And it was a pretty big jump, and we have some people pretty concerned about that. It's 10%.
how much?
10%.
Okay, then we'll take a look and see where that number came from.
And we had a financial analysis at the strategic action meeting in January, and also have been looking at revolving loan funds and.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the right track. Months cash on hand, again, I think this was something that you're aware of as well. Industry standard is 3 months. This is how much money you have in the bank, the rainy day fund. You have a town policy of 6 months, that's great. And you do have more than that, so you're in a good position to start looking at some of these capital programs with those funds that you already have. That you wouldn't need to look at rate increases as much because you have that rainy day fund. And then normally for a capital reinvestment plan, standard is your depreciation based on your depreciation. Standard is to look at about 100% of depreciation on an annual basis. And right now you're not there. This is looking backwards. I think looking forward, my understanding is that future budgets may have increase in that line item. So again, on the right track, just making sure that you all are aware of where you stand, because I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying, comparatively speaking, it gives you something to think about as you're looking at your own finances and where you want to be, what decisions you want to make. Having that knowledge that other people are going through this too, and this is kind of like industry averages. Okay, next slide. So what's next? Again, I said we'll take a look at that rate assessment. I will look at why we had that 2011 on our date and make sure that I update that as we look at movement. The next step. This is a collaborative process, so absolutely, if I'm not here to tell you what to do, I'm here to answer any questions, to walk alongside you. So if there's anything I'm saying that doesn't sound right, please let me know, because we don't want to be putting anything out there or advising you based on incorrect information. So thank you for pointing that out there. We will then finalize the 360 assessment. This was the initial parts. We will provide that menu and the map, and then we'll continue to work with you. So that concludes the formal presentation, and looking forward to conversation if you have any questions. Our contact info or information is provided there. As we heard Nathan say, he's in Arizona, but he's going to be in this area at the end of February. I laugh because I kept saying September for some reason earlier today. Andy is just, again, he's an hour and a half away. I'm based out of Wheeling, West Virginia, but I also spend time in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the Adirondacks, upstate New York, visiting my daughter in Massachusetts, And I say anywhere there's a parking lot for my van because I can work out of it, which I'm doing right now. So I'm anywhere you need me to be and happy to work with you, and it's a privilege to present this information.
Thank you. I'm sure we have some questions. Sure, Mr. Wood.
Yes, thank you, by the way. It's pretty obvious, honestly, that councils before us have kicked the can down the road. I do have some specific questions in regard to capacity. Once the vegetation is cleared out. Okay,
Right.
because we have some robust growth going. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Solving that problem is going to be, I think, almost paramount, right? The other part is the staffing. It's apparently endemic throughout the country.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Staffing.
Oh, operators,
Yeah.
yes, across the country, and if we think about the timing, the Clean Water Act was 1972, so a lot of folks got their careers started then, and guess what? They're retiring now.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place.
The other issue is the overall cost to do these things for a town that has a tax base of 4,000 people.
Right.
Okay, so help me sleep a little bit tonight.
I'll try.
Are these surmountable problems? And obviously you can't give us specifics now, but how would we mitigate some of them?
Right. Well, the way you mitigate them is by planning ahead, and you have that opportunity now. We can't correct the past, but we can look to the future. So with planning, you can spread out the capital costs, you can spread out some of these upgrades, and financing is one of the best ways to do that. If you think about it, if you're using rates to pay for capital, you're charging the existing people in the system. If you finance them, you're sharing that cost with the future users of the system. So that growth we were talking about, then they're sharing in the cost of those facilities. That's
But
one way
we're
of
actually
doing it.
talking about increasing, or having a plant with increased capacity,
Well,
because
yes.
that would be a couple of bucks, I would suspect.
And we can look at that. So you've got a push-pull happening right now. As you tighten up the pipes, sometimes that goes both ways. You're preventing water from going in, you're preventing water from going out. As you line certain areas, water's gonna find another place to get in. So you're actually, after the most recent upgrades and lining projects, there was an increase of flow at the plant during high water events. So you've got this push-pull on keeping the water out. Is it, how is it getting to the treatment plant? Are there ways to equalize the flow? So that's a bigger picture we would have to look at. We didn't look at that. We did look at the existing capacity with respect to current flows and growth flows and that type of thing. If you'd like us to look at that, we can.
And one last question for you, because taking care of water and sewer pipes that we did with ARPA money,
Right.
$5.5 million. In order to fix everything under our town, you'd have to get COVID 4 or 5 more times. We don't, because I don't believe we've done an actual hydrology study, a true hydrology study here. So we need to identify what the potentials for disaster are under there as well. Is that going to be something that's part of the scope of this?
It's not something that we had originally looked at. If you can, we can expand maybe on your question a little bit more and see if there's any way we can help with that. I want to understand your question a little better.
Okay, so my point would simply be that not only are the plant that we have to be concerned about, we have to be concerned about the pipes that get the stuff to the plant.
Correct.
And the pipes are 75 years old.
Right.
And what we saw with what we did replace is they disintegrated. And those sinkholes that you had talked about,
Yeah.
we had them there.
Yeah.
So we almost had a situation where somebody almost had lunch in Beijing because where they were driving the big trucks suddenly developed a hole.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have 4/5 of a town with those sort of potential,
Yeah.
That creates my concern, can we truly solve them? And in order to solve them, we have to know what our problems are, do we not?
I would say yes, that's the best way to go about it. Yeah. The experience that I had in Harrisburg, and I keep going back to this because we experienced a lot of things. We took over a system that it had really not had any preventive maintenance. The way they fixed holes in the pipes was to take the old signs from that they took off the streets, the stop signs, and molded it around the pipe. And took the trash, the old mattresses and stuff, and used it to fill in, so. Hopefully you don't have that, but if you do, hey, you know what, you're not alone. But we had to take that look too and say, how do we move from triage mode to just fixing the problems as they happen to more of a preventive mode? And it doesn't happen overnight. You're gonna have to pay, it's gonna be an expense to inspect all the lines. I wouldn't expect you to do that all in 1 year. That needs to be planned out and prioritized. It's a process. It's not one step. It's gonna take it takes dedication and attention.
Ultimately, are you going to give us an idea of fixing these things that you've identified? What that dollar amount would be?
We can provide some orders of magnitude, but we are not equipped to do detailed cost estimates for everything. You've got your professionals that can help with that. But we can take a look at those and just give it an eyeball and say this seems in line, or we think you're way off here. Although I'm gonna put you on the spot, Nathan. The staff were right on that cleaning of the tanks. You know, you gave an estimate, they gave an estimate, guess who won? So.
Yeah.
Goes to show your staff right now, they know what they're talking about better than we do sometimes, so. But, you know, I won't have to hazen too much right now. You do have a lot of challenges ahead of you. And public service is a thankless job. There are many options for folks like you. Including you could do contract operations with somebody, you can keep the system, supplement it. Some people sell, some people let their long-term leases.
I'm sorry, I just wanna get to, if anybody else has any questions, we spent about an hour on this, and we still have a full agenda to get to, and we're going to host a special meeting just about this separately as well, so. All right, I'll let Dr. Sullivan go, and then we're gonna, not to try to cut it off, and you know, that it's not worthy of more time, but we're gonna have to dedicate more specifically to this.
So I just want quick answers, okay? One, and this was before Diane was here, I remember we drained those tanks and cleaned them out a number of years ago. I was surprised to see the amount of growth that's in there. We need to know what's causing that and how to prevent that, because they literally drained them and they put people down there and they used buckets or whatever to clean them out. Two, the I&I issue, we thought we were kind of sold on the idea that spending all this money in the central drainage area was going to really improve the I&I issue, and it seems to have not done that. And three, we are gonna schedule a special meeting specifically to address all of this. And I don't know if you would be available on the sideline to help us answer questions as they came up, if that's part of something you could do for us.
If that's something you would like, we can check. Yeah, happy to do that. With respect to the causing vegetation, we don't know, I don't know, Nathan, do you have an answer for that? I would just say that I don't know how long ago that was or how frequently they were cleaned since
Just
then.
a few years.
Do you have any? Not all of them were cleaned. So,
That was my understanding. In fact, I think employees do not wanna be in hazmat suits inside the tank. And
Well-
so only certain number of tanks got cleaned because of the concern for their risk there, yes,
have you all been to the treatment plant?
yes.
Seen how tall those tanks are? I don't blame them, it's, you know, it takes a specialized equipment. And people that have all the proper safety, training and equipment.
Okay, I wanna make sure we get to, did I see more hands on this side? Yes, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, just a couple things, it's a lot of information to absorb, but. One of my concerns, especially looking out for my constituents, and you know, they want things fixed. But I also feel like maybe we're throwing money at a problem because we're being asked for another 750,000, that's $750,000 tonight. On top of all we've been asked for recently, so we're over $1 million there. The $2.5 million for the central drainage area and all that. Have you looked at what the town has in the recent year spent and done and what they're proposing, and have you given assessment of those requests and prioritized them?
Yes, we haven't looked at the prioritization, but we have looked at those and agree with what's been done. There's a lot that's been done, I think you're seeing that. But yes, we agree with the memos that were put together by the public works director staff.
And with this report that you were talking about earlier, that the council hasn't seen it yet, will that be available to council?
The TMF report I mentioned, or? Yes, that'll be provided,
Your full report, I think.
was that?
I think he's talking about your full report.
Oh, the technical report. Yes, so we provided that earlier, I think town manager got that along with public works director, so. And if you need us to resend that, we can do that.
Okay. And will this I don't know if this might be for Heather, will this presentation be available for council and the public? Okay, thank you. That's all I got. Appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you.
I just wanna quickly say I appreciate the guys that work at the plant and women, because I've seen women there too. Harry for giving me a tour several times, and also just, you know, for keeping things, what I would say is triage and has been triage for quite some time. The decisions of council and the governing body, because sometimes I hear this kind of insinuated through few conversations and somewhat in this tonight. The decisions we make are entirely dependent on the recommendations made to us.
Understood.
Okay, and so you need to ring the alarm bell in order for council to take action on these things, and I think that alarm bell now is currently very well rung. But I do, you know, we say, well, we could have been or should have been doing some of these things in the past, and I've been to the plant under the prior plant manager, and I asked some of these questions and I did not get an alarm sounding bell from it. And so, even though I was concerned then about it, and I just say that because we need the recommendations to come in order to make action. Okay, so we're relying on that, and that is really important to us, and in order to do our job effectively, understanding that and getting those recommendations to us, it's critical. And on the staffing morale, we have allocated some additional funds in November. It was sort of on the emergency docket to approve. I hope those have gotten to our staff in order to say thank you. It was specifically for the wastewater treatment plant employees. And so if they have not seen that, I'd like to understand why. And then you said that one day the goal is housekeeping and maintenance, but having process control to the point where a council member could run the facility.
Yeah.
And if you don't think I didn't hear that, I did. And I will go over there and I will push a button or do a tank or whatever needs to be done. I've already offered to help clean up the office. I can scrub the floor, I will sweep, mop, I can paint. There are many things, and I am willing to get rubber boots on and do them. And I do not hesitate that in my public works, our public works knows it. They know I mean it, and I will show up and do it. So I just want to say if there is dedication across the board in getting dirty to resolve this. So I just want to say we stand with our guys and girls and so we're gonna talk about the special meeting a little bit later in the agenda here and set up a date for that. And so I really would encourage that you all be there to answer questions as well.
Thank you for your time and, you know, it's all about clean water to people and doing what's right for your citizens, which is not an easy task. I understand, so thank you for allowing me to help here.
Thank you. All right, FOIA training. Now, the most riveting topic of all topics.
I think it may be a lead after that.
I spent 4 days at a FEMA conference telling me about everything that was gonna burn down, blow over, or flood. And then, now I've got the sewer, so it's a positive outlook on life right now.
It's all upward.
I like her attitude.
Actually, we wanted to go down. but-
It's a deal. I'm gonna turn my mic.
So I had a law professor once who was asked a question by a student about law being fair. And the professor said, well, law doesn't really have to be fair, but it should be reasonable and logical. And in thinking about FOIA as opposed to what he taught, which was the estate tax law, which wasn't always fair. I think FOIA is Freedom of Information Act is both fair and reasonable. It tries to balance the interest of the citizens to know with the interest of the government to function. And I think you see that throughout what I'm going to be talking about tonight. My goal tonight is to just hit some high points. This is not formal FOIA training. You have your opportunity to do that online. We're going to VML meetings to get it. And you're required to do that within 2 years. Every 2 years. And I think most of you do it every year. The keys to the Freedom of Information Act is one is that people have the right to information that's not specifically exempted in the act. And the goal is to have openness to government. And also to provide faith in our government. To foster that by avoiding any appearances or any violation of this, or any appearances that you're trying to hide something from the public. So those are the key goals. The penalties for violating FOIA, a citizen can go to the court and ask for an injunction. Court can order that records be turned over. There can be suits involved in FOIA. Each of you is subject to individual penalties for a first offense of $500 to $2,000, or a subsequent offense of $2,000 to $5,000. So this is taken seriously. The categories of it are both documents and meetings. As to documents, Heather is serving as our FOIA officer, and people are entitled to everything that's not excluded. There has to be a response quickly within 5 days. The records must exist, and occasionally we see requests for, well, give us a report on this, or explain that. Well, that town staff or town is not obligated to create something that doesn't have already. So it's just turning over existing documents. The request doesn't have to come to Heather. It can come to anyone with the town. And so you need to be alert to get that to Heather so she can respond in 5 days. And of course, it includes emails and text. And I always thought that when I was an elected official that, you know, everything I write, I should write as if anybody can read this. That I'll be pleased with it, anybody in the public reads it. So that's just the documents. Meetings, what are meetings? I mean, this came up recently with someone wanting to have a closed meeting and invite the council to it. Generally, it's 3 or more people constitute a meeting. It can be 2 if the 2 is the majority, which will never happen here. But it can also be 2 if it's designated by the body. Like if the council designates 2 people to go out and investigate something and report that to council, that can be a meeting that needs to be advertised. So you need to be aware of that. But the key factor is it must involve a discussion of public business. I mean, you can go to football games together, you can go to social events together, you can sit together, you can ride the VML together, but you can't talk about the public business when you're there, if there are more than 2 of you. And it can be tricky at times because you're in a forum that can start out as a social meeting, but then it becomes that somebody raises an issue of public business. If there are more than 2 of you there, then your antenna should go up and you should either shut off the discussion or feel ready to walk out of the room so there are only 2 left. I mean, really you should do that because otherwise it can become a public meeting. And we send out notices of when council members are together, just so the public will be aware of that. But those notices don't alleviate the need to not discuss public business. And there's constant questions about emails and text. And the Virginia Supreme Court still maintains that as long as the communications aren't simultaneous, that it really doesn't constitute a meeting. If an email sent out and somebody responds, even if they respond all an hour or 2 later, if somebody else responds the next day, that's not a meeting because it's not doesn't have the spontaneity inherent in assemblage of members. So that's something to be aware of. So you can respond to emails as a group, but it's probably better not to. You certainly don't want to get on a group text going back and forth. I think that would be a meeting. In meetings,
Don't do
I think you would, but
No, I would never do that. That's a terrible idea.
right. And generally meetings, they have to be open to the public. That's the default rule. They're all open to the public. And as I begin to talk about the meetings that aren't open to the public, I think I'll tell you a story about Ulysses S. Grant. When he was not yet 8 years old, his father sent him out to buy a colt from Mr. Ralston. And Ulysses was supposed to negotiate the purchase. And this is what I quote from Grant's memoirs. When I got to Mr. Ralston's house, I said to him, Papa says I may offer you $20 for the coat. But if you won't take that, I have to offer you 22 and a half. If you won't take that, I have to give you 25. So there are reasons for everything not being open. For closed meetings, there are about 50 exceptions that allow for closed meetings. We typically deal with only a few. Personnel, candidates for positions, real property, litigation, legal advice, and negotiation. And as you know, we're very particular about the rules. We follow them before the special meeting, identifying what it is, and the certifications afterward. And no votes put in the special meeting for us. So that's basically it in a nutshell. You can get a whole lot more from formal training, but I just felt like it might be helpful to hit on those points. I'd be glad to answer your question.
Ms. Williams?
I've got a question, of the closed meetings. You said there were, the 50 exemptions. And of course, we have them, regularly for us. How do you know what, I know, like negotiating, for example, if you're negotiating a contract or something. You go in there, you can't come out and say, and then the contract falls through or whatever. But how long does that have to be non-disclosable? Indefinitely, or at some point, like when the phase is over of the contract negotiation, the sale's over? Can you disclose any of that, or is it always?
I would say you can disclose it when it's over, when the deal is done. I don't think there's any purpose left for the closed meeting. And certainly, a lot of times you go into a closed meeting, it could be negotiation, and you want to decide to do something, and you come out, disclose it immediately with a vote. So I think the key is, or in the contract negotiation. Now, if it were a closed meeting, dealing with personnel or something, I say you never disclose that. You keep that confidential. So it just depends on what the situation is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other question? No?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do public comment, then we might take a little bit of a break. Yes. Yeah, you wanna let's do public comment first in case somebody's waiting for that, and then. Just to pick a good one to miss, huh?
We only have one sign up and it's Mr. Milberg.
Come on up, Barry, state your name and address for the record, you have 5 minutes, and welcome.
It's not gonna be 5 minutes, but Barry Norwood, 405 Livingstone Street. What I was gonna talk about was things like duck lines and firearms and maybe even bird sanctuaries. But I think that subject was perfectly well dealt with by Dr. Sal Sullivan and Mr. Duggan, and I do not need to expand on it anymore, so I'm now here under false pretense. I will just take the opportunity to say how much I appreciate the work of the mayor, the council, and the staff. And you probably don't, and the police department too. And you probably don't hear that kind of stuff too often, but as the lady over there said, there are times when you should be saying thank you to people, and that's what I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Anybody else? All right, we're gonna take a
All that.
All right, girls.
All right, I'm gonna see him. I'll send you the picture tomorrow. I will get on them. All right. I'll probably test them tonight.
Okay.
Cool.
Three hours on the dot.
See you in the morning, Adam.
Oh.
Okay.
David Arnold.
Okay. So, I'm gonna make a motion to amend the prior motion that was made to include.
Do we need to reconvene and certify that we didn't discuss anything?
That's probably helpful, yeah.
Whole thing, reconvene an open meeting? Is there a motion to reconvene an open meeting? Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second. Third.
Now I took my paper back there. Is there a motion that only business matters that were explicitly said in the prior motion were discussed, heard, or deliberated on by the town council during the time we were in closed session? If so, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and then.
I so certify.
I so certified.
I so certify.
I so certify, and now is there a motion to go into closed session with a reformatted, stated closed meeting purpose, which is pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for discussion, consideration, or interviews. Oh no, discussion or consideration of,
You want me to give you the words?
you got it?
Yeah. It's under A1, discussion, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, resignation of, you know, resignation of employees of the public body.
Okay, we're gonna do them all the adjectives, just in case. Discussion, consideration of the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, emotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of this public body, including the evaluation of performance, and
That's cool.
there you go. Okay, that's the school part, yeah.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there we go. Different. Yep, okay, is there a motion to reconvene an open meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Is there a motion to certify that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act? And only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in a meeting by council.
So moved. Second.
Each individually, sir?
I said certified.
I so certify.
I so certified. I so certified.
I so certify.
I so certify, and I motion to adjourn at 8:49 p.m.
Oh, let's just sit here for 10 minutes, say 4 hours. Because we love